What's going on, everybody? This is Dave, and this is Pop Punk Promotions. I'm here with Craig Cirinelli from New Jersey. How's it going, Craig?
How you doing, Dave?
Really appreciate you coming on. Let's dive right into it. So, when and
Sure.
how did you start booking shows?
Well, the when and the how was, I would say, based off of my early 20 somethings. After my early couple bands were playing very sporadic shows from a high school talent show to Obsessions to some basements up in progressed to a bar at 21. Um, Diving into the or in being influenced by the underground when alternative rock started to kind of crack that open. And I decided to, I was the proactive one in my band that just started booking shows, like for my bands. And then I got really into the local scene from there. And old buddy Chris Baglio, I don't know if you know Chris at this point, but he, still at this point or way back then, but he was doing a bunch of Legion Hall shows with a buddy or two of his and the Wharton Legion shows. And that was kind of an eye-opening moment where I was like, wow, this is really, cool. And there's, other shows around, flyers up at the record stores, CD stores and everything. And I was like, and the distros at the shows. I was a record nerd early on, so that really spoke to me as well. And I tell them to this day, like we had lost not complete touch, but we lost a lot of contact with one another over the years. And when we got closer again over the last, I don't know, 5 years or so again, um, which I see him, a few times a year now. I'd said to him, I was like, hey, you were the catalyst why I originally started throwing shows and kind of diving into DIY, doing some distros at shows, even myself after that. Um, and yeah, so that was really kind of the catalyst of doing it. And I started booking shows in um, a Denville hall and then a hall in White Meadow Lake. Yeah, for it seemed longer than it really is. Like kind of like only a 2 year span that those two were happening because I got and I'm probably jumping all over, but one of the halls that was kind of like the home base of what I was doing, someone else rented it, and an instance happened, and then I wasn't allowed to do shows there anymore, so I moved over. That venue was in the location, I think itself wasn't as healthy after probably I know two shows, but I don't know if it lasted much past there. So that kind of ended myself doing them back in the DIY days. Never stopped doing shows, never stopped booking shows with my own bands and stuff like that, playing them. But um, that's way back then. But you tell me if you want me to tell you about the now as well.
Please do.
Okay, because I didn't want to rattle on. But the big gap between doing it then in my early to mid 20s or early to late 20s, you figure there was about a my shows like were 2 years, but I was still doing a lot of DIY booking with my bands, with other halls and friends, within the scene. But then, I stopped doing that. Fast forward to I think it's about 10 years ago now. So we're talking about around 2016. Um, a band I was playing in kept what was playing Crow's Brew Pub in Sparta a handful of times, and I asked the booker who he took a liking to our band, and he's like, "You guys come back, whenever you want." And I was like, "Can I bring some bands on the bill, or can I pitch you some bands?" And he was open to it repeatedly. And then he's like, "You're throwing me so many bands." He goes, I wanted to know if you would like me to introduce it to the owners, and are you interested in booking, like actually like co-booking some shows?" So that happened. That was my first introduction to actually doing it for um in this later span of my life, this middle age span of my life. And I was just doing that on the side of graphic design work, and after the pandemic came in and settled music down for a while, and then it picked back up. Um, let's say two different venues I was friends with, two different businesses because they weren't venues yet. Two different businesses asked me about um doing some showcases. I was friends with them. They knew I was diehard into music still, in other ways, and they knew, I was booking at Crows. I was like, I would love to book some showcase shows, and that was Twin Elephant Brewing in Chatham and Boonton Coffee in Boonton, New Jersey, and both of those became like a theme series that started doing really well, and kind of really opened my eyes, to like, wow, this is really fun, and it's not just booking a bar corner now, like Crows, which I'm still part of, still attached to. But then there was kind of like a piggyback effect where I picked up or was reached out by other breweries and other venues like, hey, I'd like you to book for us, or would you like to, come have a conversation? And that happened multiple times. And I picked up a few more. I took a couple, and I'm booking 6 spots now. Yeah, so that's where we're at now.
So sick. It was just a snowball effect. Like you started off
It was a
small, then
snowball.
others saw that you were killing it and you were bringing in like really dope bands and they were just like, you know what? We want to be part of it. So then they decided to, hop on it as well. That's really
Yes.
sick.
Yeah, and it was flattering, and also it spoke to my heart because I say, even though I was a graphic designer after trade school, I focused most of that in the music field. So I was, yes, I would take some corporate logos or some a random t-shirt for a town or someone's company or something like that, but I really honed in on doing design work for bands, solo songwriters, a bunch of indie labels, other show promoters doing posters, and because that still blossomed, it turned on that creative switch way more than doing other stuff. And I always say, even with that, um, give me music first, and I'll grab right onto it, and
You
I guess I've used the cliche, tell my 20 something year old. Go ahead.
You remind me of myself. It's like once you get going, you just can't stop, and somebody has to like, just come over and be like, Craig, Dave, just chill out, just take a breather, and it's just like I can't. I just got to keep doing what I love to do and keep making new homies and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. I say, I was going to say, tell my 20 something year old self then that I would be doing this now with full heart and full passion for it. Never would have thought of that, you know?
That's absolutely amazing. So would you say
Yeah.
it's easier to get people on board now or 20, 25 years ago?
Wow. I think strategy is different now, or I'm just looking at it from a very adult perspective than, an earnest, papering the town aspect, because how to do it. The cost of the shows was barely a thought back then, you know. Now I have to think of that about that a lot because I'm responsible for the venues, earning money, not losing money, the bands themselves wanting to get paid. Like I won't not pay an opening band, and I won't this and that. Like I said, I come from the musician side, so I always care about that side equally as the business, but I have to care about both. Otherwise, these won't happen, and otherwise I'll be doing a disservice to either side, Yeah.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, so I think the challenge is just different. I think of it differently now, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, things are a little bit different now with like, Facebook and Instagram and like, way more technology.
Yeah.
We're also, 20, 25 years ago, I mean, we didn't have that. We had very little of it, so you didn't really have to like, worry about that.
Yep.
That's
Yep, I
awesome.
agree.
So do you remember the bands that you put on for your first show? And if so, who was it?
First show. I'm fairly certain it was Seething Gray. I don't know if do you know Seething Gray? If you know, it's
No.
okay. Um, they were a Highland Park slash New Brunswick band. I definitely lumped in New Brunswick because they were a big melody bar band back then, and I know they, at least one of them had residence in Highland Park. Um, Camber. I don't know if you knew Camber from Deep Elm Records.
No.
They
I'm gonna have to go and
were,
check them out now.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
slacking.
yeah, and I think it's funny because I had scanned in copies of the old flyers years later, like more in the, you know, more within the last 10 years of the early flyers, but it could have been um, it was either Ember or I think it was Ember. I don't think it was a Situation at 1200. I think that was after Ember. But it was actually one of my Chris Baglio, who I mentioned, was one of his bands. I'm fairly certain that was on the bill, just almost like a payback. It was kind of like, hey, play my first show.
That's awesome.
That,
What kind of
yeah.
music?
Well, it was one was pop emo, one was definitely post-hardcore, melodic post-hardcore, and the other one was um what we would classify as old school emo at this point, the the descendant of Sunny Day Sound as opposed to, what one would call it right now. Yeah.
My Chemical Romance and Census Fail and bands like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I would say like, more tying into the Midwest indie sound than the explosive pop punk or you know, sound, I mean, it was all explosive, but I'm saying more jangly Midwest indie versus where it popped open in the early 2000s.
That's awesome. I'm
Yeah.
just, I'm just getting goosebumps like thinking about all this.
Yeah, I
Take a
didn't
trip
I didn't
down
know
memory lane.
yeah, I didn't know what angle you were gonna bring or what angles that you were gonna bring up and where it would take the memory. That's why I was almost like, do I need to prepare for this? And hope I find the right compartments to open up in the brain here.
Oh, it's all good. It's all about just
Yeah.
being like as like natural and just chill as possible.
Yeah, of course.
That's awesome. So if you had to pick a favorite show that you booked, which one and why?
That I booked. Well, are you talking about from then to now or just old school?
Both.
Because it could be vastly different. Um I book well, no, I book one series in the genre we're talking about, but it's acoustic or it doesn't have to be acoustic. It's stripped based luminaries. You know, the front person of the group, solo or duo with another band member or something at one of the series. I am putting on some loud shows at another, and that's Twin Elephant Brewing I was talking about. I'm doing the post punk luminary kind of series, but it's a small room right now. There is an expansion going on. But so they cater to more strip shows. I am putting on some loud shows at Autodidact Beer in Morris Plains, and have booked within what the genre we were just speaking of, is now. I also just started booking some shows at my buddy's record store in town here called Hidden Tracks Records. They do loud shows often, and but to answer your question, but then outside of that, what I was getting at, I book very much outside of that realm because I'm a big, I love alternative rock. I love folky Americana acoustic music, and I'm booking a lot of those. So my answer really would span kind of like turning that wheel to say, wow, two different answers of two different eras of my life, I guess. I guess I go back to there was a Shades Apart show that I booked at the second DIY spot. This is going to be the old school answer that I really enjoyed. it wasn't the most crowded show compared to the 2 years worth of shows that I was doing. That was because of the venue change that happened. Um, that was Shades Apart, um, Congress of Cow, and um, Shades Apart, the band I was in at the time called Threadline, and was it a three-man bill? I think it was a three-man bill. Trying to remember we had an end of night photo that we all found years later, and um, but then you come into the now. What would be my fit? You know what? I'm gonna go for it and say Amethyst Kia is an artist that I really love now. And she just came in solo to Boot and Coffee, which is a showcase room. It's a quiet listening room style room, and it was just her with her guitar. And on the same tour, she came into Boot and Main Street to play for 50 people. She played at the Ryman Auditorium, and that was very special, just the power of her voice in that room. Oh yeah, I'm gonna call that one my favorite. Um, but if I had to tell all the musicians that I booked, I'll be like, well, you were second, you were close first. I mean, a close second, I should say. But yeah,
Put you on the spot.
you did put me on the spot. All right, nobody watched this. Nobody watched this afterwards.
Well, if
Yeah.
they could be, angry with somebody, it's gonna be me because I'm the one that asked the question. I'm the one that pried it out of you.
Even if you said top 10, I would still be like, oh no, I forgot this one or I forgot that one. Yeah.
We'd have to do a top 200.
Right, right. Yeah.
That's amazing. So you are also in the band Hidden Cabins, and you guys dropped a new album in November. Two sides, two
Oh
stories.
yeah.
How's the response been to it?
It's been good. Thanks for recognizing that. It's it's a special group that we all did come from a more rowdy scene years ago. Didn't know one another back in our excuse me, back in our 20s. Um, we met I would say it was around 2014 and um, becoming close friends in the now, it was just the guitar player Brian and myself, that built Hidden Cabins from a two-piece up to a three-piece. Quickly after the three-piece, within the same year, I would say we brought in, which was the drummer, we brought in the bass player as a four-piece, and we flourished the band. But we moved around a lot, um, as the two of us, and toured around and um, just kind of and we took an end in 2018 because my guitar player moved, but everything was healthy otherwise. We thought we would maybe keep it up at that time. It dissipated. I wound up doing some other music at that time, and we reconnected in 2024, or the idea in 2023 to maybe do it again long distance. Reconnected in 24, and we started doing some pocketed weekender shows, which just felt great, almost like you have that old familiar feeling again. And from there, from that chemistry, we demoed some songs, sent them back and forth over the miles, put together a new EP's batch of songs, and we bookended it with the EP that we ended on because I think we played 3 or 4 shows behind it. That was the year that he was moving, and we didn't really get to play a lot behind that. So that's what makes up that new LP. It's that came out in this past November, and I love that it exists. It sounds great audibly, and it ties together the pre and post hiatus, I guess, of
Yeah,
the
that's
band.
got to
Yeah.
be really tough, like being in a band with, people from North Carolina, like having to make sure that you guys are, on the same page and you make sure that you guys, and having to figure out like the tour situation and like the show situation. I mean, that's got to be really, really tough.
Yeah, it's motivated by those willing to do things. So Brian, the guitar player, um, very creative guy, very motivated guy, and he is one who lives and breathes music like we're talking about, and we both get excited to this day about it. And we just know we love to do it. It's coming from the heart. It's coming from the right place. And that gives us the motivation to patch together the miles. Um, you know, Not just put together the songs, but do it in that face-to-face kind of way, and connect on shows, and it takes money to do it. We have to spend money, whether it be an economic flight, the gas it takes to go back and forth and everything, within all, between all the shows, um, expenses of um, like shipping records to one another, like when that came out and everything. It's like, oh no, we exist in two locations, and then we branch out and do weekenders area, and just like the logistics are different than when you're all living in the same area, but what makes it worthwhile is cherishing the people that want to do it, because as you grow older, a lot of people don't have the energy or the focus or the drive or the time to do it anymore, yeah, so
Fortunately, I'm currently learning that right now. Yeah, with me being 34, it's just like I'm at that point now where it's like, people are, slowly but surely like fading away. People are getting married, having kids, like, doing their
yeah,
thing. And then there's me, and I'm just like, doing my thing, staying true to like who I am, and doing the music thing and the skateboarding thing, and just trying to stay young and just cherish the moments I have with the people that, are still around and
yeah,
still want to, do the thing. So that's amazing.
yeah. But you said a good word. You have to cherish those who do. I've learned not to um, I've learned not to regret steps, even if they're the wrong steps, in music making and bandhood, because not every situation is for everybody, and it doesn't mean it has to ruin a relationship. It doesn't mean that my own way is the right way. It's just the way that I want to do things, and it's, I guess, the phrase, you have to move around, what you consider an obstacle, not yell at it, not make that obstacle the thing that comes between, you know two people that otherwise have a good relationship, and you just have to find a way around it, and that's, I think, can, relate that to any relationship in life, right? You gotta do what's right for you, because ultimately that's what your path is. Yeah.
Absolutely. Faux show.
Bosha.
So for the new album, who do you guys record it with and how was the process?
Okay. So we actually decided to try something different, and it wound up being a 50% process where we went into Pennsylvania, and a friend of ours named Daryl. He actually opened up. Well, him and his wife. I'm trying to think if there was a third partner. It would be really, flighty of me to just forget if there was. Okay, I'm just going to say Daryl and Dana Sellers opened up a studio called Caco Studios, Cako, and that's in I think it's called Penn Argyl, PA. Have you heard of it? Being
I have.
I don't know
I don't know
where
much
the
about
relativity
it.
is that you are.
I drove past a
Okay.
sign and it said that, and like that's it.
It's definitely a small town, definitely a small town, and they took over a what's the right word? I don't want to say abandoned, because abandoned, probably, that would sound way more in shambles, but just a vacated church, and they built their recording studio out of it. So you could imagine the ceilings, the depth of it all, the architecture within it, and they built a recording studio with a beautiful board, and the live room speaks for itself. I was saying, a lot of cool gear, and we decided to go there and record for over a weekend. We slept over. A friend came out, and did some guest vocals on it, named Joe Galupo, and we tracked everything there. We were well prepared with demos, with our trading back and forth demos over the digital waves, and we tracked everything there. Um, we wound up getting all of the master files, all the stems, and then we had it mixed where we used to record a lot, which was Nada Recording Studios. John Niclario at Nada up in New York State, you may have heard of. Uh, booming recording studio. I can't say enough great things about John as a person, and how he works. He's very diligent. He's such a great guy, and he mixed the all the new material, and it tied together very well with the material on the other side because he actually tracked and mixed that side. So, there's a very cohesive quality from the front to back.
I must have been really sick working with him, like knowing just like the bands that he's worked with in the
Yeah,
past.
yeah, and we were at his both of his space before where he's at now and where he's at now, which is a beautiful uh uh backyard miniature say like a barn garage. It's one story, and prior to that it was in an industrial section of a different town up in upstate New York, mid-state, let's say mid-state. New York. Honestly, it might be downstate. I'm going to go through all of the sections of New York right now. Um, but it was great to see him work. It's great to see all the records on the walls and just to be able to be in there multiple times, tracking over the years. Yeah.
I feel like for like a setup like that, you would just need like a lot of land. You would need to be in like the middle of nowhere, like no distractions and be able just to like, lock in.
He's in the woods. Yep, he's in the woods. When the sun goes down and you walk out, you got stars above you and creepy trees all around you, and yeah, I think that was his aim, and that's why he moved it to his property. I mean, who wouldn't want to walk out their back door and have a state of the art studio right there to go to work in, right?
That'd be so
So,
dope. Like I'm really butthurt right now.
oh yeah, yeah, props,
Well,
props to
while I get to go
yeah,
and like, like do something that like, I don't really want to do. He gets to wake up, get his coffee, and go live the dream.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. He's built something good, with his life, and he's grabbed hold of it, and he's still going. Yeah,
That's awesome. That's amazing.
yeah.
So, who are your musical influences?
Uh-huh. Hmm. Well, because that's been asked, various times through a lifetime, I'm just going to go with some instinctual answers because I say, because I think that does change or a lot more seeps in than we might call out on the surface, whether it be, you know, a genre as a whole or a style. And I do feel very sponge-like, to enjoy so many styles. You could, yeah, I think I was getting at, from the loud to the soft to the super effects laden to the very stark and intimate. I do enjoy that all. If you Some direct influences, um, seaweed used to be one of them. When I say used to be, sure, I say that word and I still love the band. I love the band Hum. I love Tori Amos. I was a big Elliott Smith fan early on. I was geez, I would be lying if I didn't say when alternative rock broke and the Seattle scene came in, a lot of that dirty, grungy stuff. I felt so primal and not like I would say like not as pristine as my older brother's music, growing up. So when that hit, it felt more of a calling, and that sent me underground to the to the post-hardcore scenes like Fugazi and Rollins Band and diving each way around that. Um, I fell for Sunny Day Real Estate and Shudder to Think and bands like that early on. Yeah. But hey, when I say like, I don't know if I'm getting, I don't know if that was mixed up enough, but I really loved, overseas bands. I really liked Brit rock bands and kind of like that convergence of shoegaze and Brit rock bands like Swerve Driver and Ride and Catherine Wheel. Those meant a lot, as well.
So here's $1 million question for you. If you could play a
Sure.
show or tour with one of those bands, who would it be?
Uh, I'll have a gluttonous answer to say one of my bands, we got to open for Seaweed. Um, they did a reunion tour, and it was, gosh, I wish I was in the room. I have the poster on the wall in my office. But they did a reunion tour. I'm gonna say it was around 2010 to 12. I could be wrong. It could be like 16. Um, and it was at the Bell House in Brooklyn, and we got to open for Seaweed. So, if not them, I would love to play with Catherine Wheel. How's that?
That's a
Since
different
you,
answer. That would be really sick.
yeah, since you had me pick out from the batch that I mentioned, that would be a great one.
Right on. So now I'm going to ask you some non-music questions. It's a good way for me to get to know you as a person. I did this with the other bands, the other
Sure.
labels, promoters, and all that jazz. You ready to roll?
Yep, absolutely.
All right, first one. Favorite movie?
Ooh, favorite movie. Hmm. Favorite movie. And I'm not even a movie buff that you would think I would have like I'm just kind of searching to say what would I say for that answer? Oh, favorite movie. You're like, come on, Craig, give me an answer here. Geez. I don't know. Is that weird? Like right now I'm just spacing on a favorite movie.
How about one movie that you really like?
I guess I love Stand By Me. I did like Stand. So how's that? We'll call that the, like or favorite right now. I love that growing up. I love that movie.
That's a great movie. And the funny thing is, I know this is really sad, but the other night I watched it for the first time ever.
Oh, really? Like
Yeah,
recently?
it's dude, it's weird. I mean, there's like a bunch of movies that I just for some reason missed growing up, and that was one movie that I
Yeah.
missed. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna watch it, and I'm gonna watch the entire thing. And after it was done, I'm like, this is really sick. Like, I can understand
Yeah.
why so many people love this movie. I can understand why you love it. It just,
Yeah.
kids having fun and staying true to who they are, and just going on an adventure. And it's something that I can really relate to.
Yeah. Good.
And Rob Reiner is a
And
good director. Like, he's one of the better directors out there, and he did a great job. And it definitely makes me want to
he did a
go
great
back
job.
to Oregon.
Yeah, he did a great job. I was just gonna say, I just the setting and how it was shot. Yeah, there's just something very right now. It just brings me back to that movie. So I'm glad I said that one and that you grabbed onto it because I'm like, wow, you experienced it for the first time, which is neat to hear that it hit you now in 2026 or five. I don't know if you recently was end of the year or beginning of this year or whatever, but yeah, that's very cool.
It was actually a couple days ago.
Just a couple of days ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
look at
like literally, it was
that.
like 2 days ago.
We could say, swear we didn't confer on this, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but no, it honestly it gave me like Goonie vibes. It gave
Yep.
me yeah, movies
Yep.
like the Goonies. Like, it gave me those vibes, and
That was a
that's one of
great
my
movie too.
all-time favorite movies. So
That was a great movie. Yep.
all good. Goonies
As
never
well.
say die.
Die. Yep.
So if you were stranded on a desert island, what three items would you want to have with you?
Are items non-living?
It could be living items, it could be non-living items.
I was only allowed three, huh? I would say my wife and two kids.
Oh, that's an amazing answer. And maybe it's a
Yeah.
good thing that you said that, because if you did, like, they would be going
Yeah.
through your head.
Right. Right. Imagine if I just, gave some material items and your next guest or your guest before me named their family. I'll be like, oh my gosh, what did I do?
Definitely made the right call on that one.
Great, great.
So if you had $1 million and you could donate it to any charity, which one and why?
Hmm. I think I would donate it for wow. I think you know, chronic conditions, diseases, illnesses that both take us away too early or last a lifetime, are all very important causes and puts people through, you know, different things and their family member through different things. So it's hard to choose a single one. I think the depth of cancer and the I know it's come a long way in fighting it, but just you know, I think it would be that. And I think it's just because it's um I start thinking of different ailments people have, especially now that, in middle age that, have family, friends that have experienced them, um, still here or are gone, in different ways. I think cancer is such a big one that's stealing, yeah, I think that's what I would choose.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you can never go wrong with cancer. Like I can relate to it. I lost my grandmother to cancer back in
Hmm.
2016, so it hits home for me. So I can definitely relate, and I'm all for that.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's awesome. All right, last question. What are some places in my home state of New Jersey that visitors should check out?
Ooh. Um, well, are these visitors into music or counterculture, or are these visitors family that are just coming to, you know, have their eyes open? Look at me. I'm answering another question with a question, right?
Music. Let's do
Music.
music.
That's good because then that makes me reach for less, for less angles there. Um, I have to say, Hidden Tracks Records in Boonton, they're just having their 2 year anniversary. It feels like longer because it feels like there's a lot has happened within that store. Um, Great friends with the Murphys, the owners, Shane and Michelle. They have it set up so wonderfully. They have a stage inside of their store that has live music. They have their records are pretty much my target market. Like let's just say their favorite records are my target market, and they do have everything around it from classic and subgenres. But I walk in and I see the posters on the wall. I see the stage there. I see I see people flipping through because it does feel like a very visceral thing to do. Or not visceral, but like just I don't know. You're digging in. You're digging in. You're bringing out emotion. That's one. That's what I'll say. Hidden Tracks Records in Boonton, New Jersey. A second, um, you know, I would say into music, and it's New Jersey since we're clarifying that. I love the Portrait Recording Studios barn. I don't know from the music you've been into if you know Portrait Recording Studios. It's similar to Nada, like meaning Chris Badami of Portrait, his studio hood, which he's moved, his studio hood has blown up in the same era, and um, got a lot of notoriety in the early 2000s, but he's been making records since the late 90s, and he's still making them to this day. It's a 3-story recording studio, um, outfitted in a red barn, and it just has a beautiful Neve board in the upstairs, smaller board, and downstairs 2 independent studios. I don't know. I think if you're into music, it's a great piece of history, and uh, you walk in and you get vibes from it. So that's number two. Um, Something else musical to visit in New Jersey. Um, I it's hard to pick out a certain venue, but I would say visit music happening in New Jersey. Pick a venue in the area that you're visiting, pick a style you're into, and you'll it because we're spoiled. We're spoiled to have a convergence of music aficionados in all parts of our state. Coming through from all our neighboring states because it's so close to a lot of them. I don't know. Pick music and find it in a venue nearby, and it could be a small venue. It could go back to a 50-person spot like Boot and Coffee, or it could be classic Stone Pony during the summer and for the summer stage. I think you're gonna have a great time. Yeah.
I love that. That's an absolutely amazing answer.
Yeah. You can find it. You can find it in New Jersey. There's my commercial. There's my slogan there, right?
Absolutely. Faux show.
Yeah.
Well, Craig, I really appreciate you coming on. Means a lot to me.
Great. I thank you so much for asking. That was very nice. And can we give a shout out to Chris?
No, we did not.
Can we do that? Because
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I just want to say uh thanks for dropping my name, Chris. Chris from people know him from Lane Meyer. You know him from Day at the Fair more or what?
Yes, Day at the Fair.
Day at the Fair more. I know him from, guess what? I know him from Congress of Cow more. So that goes back to the early DIY days when he asked about a favorite sh show. Yeah, Congress of Cow was the band he was in before Lane Meyer.
You
And
got me
then
beat.
there you go. So I have to throw a shout out because you said he dropped my name about doing stuff around the scene, and that's why we're here talking. So
Chris is the MVP.
thanks, Chris.
Chris,
That was great
you
to
the
hear.
man.
Awesome.
So where can people find you at?
Well, I'm pretty much honed in at House Without Walls. So that used to be, it still is, but I've flipped the tables of what my main work is. So um, I book under House Without Walls. I'm the booker for different venues, like actually as their booker, but I also put on, shows under House Without Walls as well, and try to just blossom underground music and overground music as you've seen. And you could find me under my name, Craig Cirinelli, or House Without Walls is now from from booking from graphic design 20 years in the making, probably. So one big long word, House Without Walls.
Do what the man says and go and check it out. Well,
Thank
Craig, I
you
hope
very
you have
much, Dave.
a great night, and we'll chat soon.
Sounds great. I appreciate it very much. Take
Of
care.
course. Peace.
Peace.